Param Vijayate Shri Krishna Sankirtanam. Total world victory of Hare Krishna. My name is Sitapati Das, and I'm here in the studio with my wife, Danna Devi.
Hare Krishna.
And today we are hosting the debate. Do women have a soul? I mean, have a Varna.
No,
Do women have a Varna? Do women have a soul? That was last century. This is the 21st century. And we're joined for this debate by His Grace Jivanmukta Prabhu. He is hated and feared by feminists worldwide, well known as one of the originals from the GHQ days. Thank you for joining us today, Prabhu.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
So Jivanmukta Prabhu will be taking the do women have a Varna? So it's a question. He's taking the position that women do not have a Varna. And I'll be arguing the other side, that women do have a Varna. And to make the call at the end, I'll be assisted by my loyal and energetic and fearless ksatriya wife, Danna, just getting that in there, the Varna piece. And then to make the call on behalf of the audience, we have Muchukunda Dasa and Isvari Kesavi, Devidasi, a young, impressionable grhasta couple whose family and future relies on the outcome of this debate today. So thank you for joining us today. And I just want to acknowledge that it's actually Muchukunda's birthday today. So happy birthday.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you. We're relying on you guys to give us the correct siddhanta on this topic.
We definitely will do that. Okay, I'm just going to post a link to the video into the event discussion. Add a post. Bam, live now. Okay, and then if you're viewing this live on Facebook, feel free to drop your comments, your questions, your quotes into the chat, and from time to time we'll be able to drag them in. So the format for today is Jivanmukta Prabhu is going to start. He's going to have 10 minutes to make his case. Women do not have a Varna. Danna will be doing the timing, and we'll let you know when you have 1 minute left. And then I'll take 10 minutes to develop my case, and then we'll have a 10-minute each right of reply to the other's case, and then we'll be opening it to discussion. So that is the format for today. Maybe before we begin, for viewers who don't know you, Jivanmukta Prabhu, perhaps you could take a couple of a minute or so to introduce yourself for the viewers.
I don't know. What do they want to know about me?
Maybe just whatever you would like them to know about you.
I joined the ISKCON in 1979 in Toronto. I was out almost immediately on Sankirtan with Bhakti Marg Brahmachari at the time. He's now Swami. And I was initiated by Kirtanananda in 1980, 6 months later. I was married in 1984, opened up a preaching center, the first center in Halifax. I was brought back to Toronto to help with the Toronto Temple, subsequently decided I need to get out on my own and establish myself independently and work on supporting my family, developing a family. And since then, I've had 7 children with my wife, Sita. And my eldest daughter is 37 years old. My youngest son is 18, 5 daughters and 2 sons. And I've been blessed that my efforts in developing an economic base has been successful. And now at 63, I'm just kind of trying to create a situation where I have more time to devote to my spiritual life and hearing and chanting and preparing for the next phase.
Fantastic. Thank you. Okay, would you like to take it away with the
Well,
opening case?
I wanted to clarify that I think the premise of this debate, whether women have Varna or not, I don't know whether that's as accurate maybe as it should be. I think what we're really debating is whether women should act within the capacity of the four Varnas and ashrams. Clearly, women have certain characteristics, but the issue is not so much the Varna as much as the prescribed duty, the occupational responsibility, the occupational role of women within society. I think that is more what would you agree with that?
Well, I was impelled or inspired to create this conversation by the statement that you made on the Varna Ashram call we were on earlier in the week, where you said women don't have a Varna.
Yeah, and what I meant by that was that women are not, and I'll give some support from Srila Prabhupada's statements, but I think really what is meant by that and what people visualize when we say women don't have Varna is that they're not prescribed to act like Brahmins, for example. Like they're not Kshatriyas, they're not, the Vedic society does not condone them acting as kings and as warriors and leading armies in that regard. Whether they have Varna, and maybe I should just start in my presentation because that's really my presentation. So
okay, yeah, let's go with that. It sounds like yeah, okay. Let's just go with it and see where we end up, eh?
That when we talk about Varna, and Srila Prabhupada, I found a really nice quote here. When we talk about Varna, we're talking about what Krishna describes as guna karma vibhagasha. Chaturvarnyam, four Varnas. Chaturvarnyam mayashrishtam, guna karma vibhagasha. So the Varnas, if we want to discuss it as the divisions in society, are determined by guna, the quality, and work. As far as quality, the quality depends upon the modes of material nature, the three modes of nature. So depending on the combination, we either have the Brahminical sentiment, the Kshatriya sentiment, the Vaishya, Shudra, and so on. The gunas, therefore, are the quality. The modes of material nature determine the gunas, the quality. The karma is the prescribed duty. The karma is the practical application within a social context of those modes of nature. How do we engage human beings who have particular qualities within the context of a society? Lord Krishna says he's created that system. And he's organized that system according to these four divisions. Now, in the 7th canto, the same question is asked by the question of how, the clarification of the four classes, the four Varnas and four ashrams are asked by Maharaj Yudhishthira to Narada Muni. He describes them in chapters 11 and 12. In chapter 11, he goes through the general qualities for all human beings. And then in order, he describes the different occupational divisions. He describes the Brahmins. He describes the Kshatriyas, their occupational duties, their common duties, their alternative occupational duties, the symptoms of each of them. He describes the Vaishyas. He describes the Shudras. And then, after the Shudras, the category is Sadvi Stri. Chaste women are the category described after Shudras. They are not classified even as Shudras. The occupational duties described by Narada Muni. And Narada Muni prefaces his description and his elucidation of this by saying that these are the words that have emanated from the mouth of Lord Narayan, that he heard this directly from Lord Narayan. So after all these occupational responsibilities of the Vaishyas, the Shudras, the Kshatriyas, the Brahmins are described, the chaste women occupational duties are described. Every single item under the occupational duties is based on service to her husband. Render service to the husband, be favorably disposed to the husband, equally disposed to husband's relatives and friends, follow the vows of the husband. Chaste women must dress nicely, decorate herself with ornaments, keep clean, attractive garments, sweep and clean household. These are the descriptions of the occupational responsibilities of women coming from Lord Narayan himself. This is not something of, some, misogynist, woman hater or anything. These are the this is how society was described by Lord Vishnu as far as how it is to be organized. This principle, and then after the women come Antyajas, the lower class. Those, interestingly, include the mixed classes, including the pratiloma and anuloma individuals. So those, and there's that particular arrangement. And then there are those outside the Varnashram society. So there's human beings that don't even participate within the Varnashram Dharma. So the Varnashram, then of course, Narada Muni explains the different ashrams, brahmachari, grhasta, vanaprastha, sannyas, which women don't partake in at all, except as being wives to the grhasta. They do not become brahmacharis. They follow their husbands in his vow as a vanaprastha, and they most definitely do not become sannyasis. So the idea that a woman is a Brahmin is undermined by that very fact that a Brahmin goes through all those stages of ashram life. A woman never is intended to leave the house. What to speak of going to an ashram of the guru? What to speak of going into the forest by herself? And of course, what to speak of taking sannyas? Prabhupada, with respect to kshatriyas, on numerous occasions, ridiculed this idea of women's kshatriyas. Let me read a few direct quotes. Canto 10, Chapter 4, verse 5. As we learn from the history of the Mahabharata, or Greater India, the wives and daughters of the ruling class, the Kshatriyas, knew the political game, but we never find that a woman was given the post of chief executive. This is in accordance with the injunctions of Manu Samhita, but unfortunately, Manu Samhita is now being insulted in our own Hare Krishna society. And the Aryans, the members of Vedic society, cannot do anything. Such is the nature of Kali Yuga. Canto 4, Chapter 16, verse 23. It is very appropriate to compare a powerful king like Prithu to a lion. In India, Kshatriya kings are still called Singh, which means lion. Unless rogues, thieves, and other demonic people in a state are afraid of the executive head who rules a kingdom with a strong hand, there cannot be peace or prosperity in the state. Thus, it is most regrettable when a woman becomes the executive head instead of a lion-like king. In such a situation, the people are considered very unfortunate. May 9th, 1997, Prabhupada calls Indira Gandhi, on April 5th, 1977, Prabhupada calls her a prostitute. What is this prostitute? She has no fixed up husband. Woman given freedom means prostitute. May 9th, Prabhupada says, don't trust a woman and politician, and she is both. We had very, very great qualified women in Mahabharata, but they were in charge of state? No, very qualified women. For women, there's no independence. They must stay under father, under husband, under elderly sons. 3 stages. I can continue. So I don't want to go on with just quotes. Prabhupada ridiculed the idea of female policemen. Prabhupada, in a lecture, where is this here? Press conference in Chicago, was asked, about women, and where does he say here? Okay, is it possible for a woman to be a Brahmin? This is in Nairobi, November 2nd, 1975. Woman is a Brahmin's wife, then she is automatically Brahmin. Suppose she doesn't want to get married for the rest of her life. Prabhupada says, so in his spiritual position, everyone is a Brahmin. But you give Brahminical initiation to unmarried women. Yes, but on spiritual point, she is Brahmin. Oh, it is not possible for a woman to be a sannyasi? No. Then there is also, there's also here another where it is, I'm trying to find these quotes, where Prabhupada clearly says, could a woman be a Brahmin? Prabhupada says no. Here it is. Okay. Now, because a girl has to follow her husband, if her husband is Brahmin, automatically she becomes Brahmin. There is no need of separate reformation. And by chance, she may be married with a person who is not a Brahmin. Then what is the use of making her a Brahmin? So, woman is never considered Brahmin. She is always considered woman. Now, that doesn't mean that she doesn't have qualities that may distinguish her from other women. Pratiloma, aniloma, of course, a young girl born and raised in a Brahmin family is going to develop certain qualities, certain skills that relate to the Brahminical occupational responsibilities of her father. Likewise, if he's a ksatriya, I have an entire discussion between Draupadi and Satyabhama, wherein
1 minute remaining.
Sure, wherein Draupadi describes her occupational duties to her husband, which is what? Being a wife, looking after the household. So whether Kshatriya, Brahmin, the wife's responsibilities are the same. As far as qualities, you find various qualities in all life forms. Prabhupada says that these modes, if you want to call gunas, they're working in everything. Plant life, beast life, there's gunas are working. Trees, everything could be divided according to these gunas. So it's a different combination. Of course, women have their own gunas. Of course, they have their own distinct qualities. Of course, a girl born in a Shudra family is going to be different, act differently than a girl born in a Brahmin family. But that doesn't make her a Brahmin. It's always a woman.
Okay, it's 10 minutes.
Okay.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Welcome.
Yeah. Okay, so I'll just take 1 minute to introduce myself so you know who is speaking before I deliver my case. I am the immortal Vaishnava who is visible on the eyeballs of the humans as the human being designated as Sitapati Das. In this lifetime, I was born on the day of the solar eclipse, December 24, 1973. And I was born at the end of the period of day where the Brahmanas are born, just before the Kshatriyas were born. I joined this Krishna consciousness movement in ISKCON in 1997, and I was initiated by His Holiness Jivanmukta Swami. I'm a career grhasta. I've been married for 23 years to my first wife, Parambhava, who left her body in November of 21, and I've been married to my now wife, Danna Devi, since March 21st of last year, 2021. And I'm here to establish Varnashram Dharma on this planet as part of the mission of His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And I am a ksatriya. So that is who is speaking. So I will now begin to present my case. You can give me 10 minutes, please.
10.
Okay, so you've actually presented the case that I was going to present largely, but I will further elucidate upon that. So when we speak of Varna, the Sanskrit word means color, and it refers to the 4 divisions of human society according to guna and karma. You began from the same place that I wish to begin from, Bhagavad Gita 4.13. Chaturvanyam maya shrishtam guna karma vibhagashaha. Krishna says that I established these 4 orders of life, the division of human society into the 4 varnas, according to guna and karma. So guna means qualities. It's the psycho-physical proclivity of the human yantra, which can be derived or discovered through astrology. And it can also be derived or discovered through examination of the living entity if the time of birth is not known. So each person has a particular quality of work that they are suited to, and then also according to karma. So that means their activity that they perform in the society. So you have in the Vedic literature statements such as in the 11th canto, where it says in chapter 17, text 39, one who desires to establish family life should marry a wife of his own caste or varna, who is beyond reproach and younger in age. If one desires to accept many wives, he must marry them after the first marriage, and each wife should be of a successively lower caste or varna. So in this way, it is understood that the varna sankara that Arjuna fears in the Bhagavad Gita first chapter is the mixing of the varnas, and therefore the woman must have a varna. She must have the guna, the different qualities which can be understood from her astrology. So by examining the birth chart of the living entity, there is nothing gender specific about the particular varna that they are born as, with their qualities acquired from the 3 modes of material nature. And therefore anuloma and pratiloma exists. Then the karma is manifested as the family that one is born into and the social standing that that family has, and one's nature may be more or less suited to that family. For example, Dronacharya, who was born in the family of a brahmana, we can see from the activities that he performed fighting on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, along with his son Ashvatthama, that he was suited to the karma of a Kshatriya, but he had the birth in the family of a Brahmana. So women are also born into families, and so they have the social standing of the family that they are born into. So let me keep an eye on my time here. So I want to make a note here of what you pointed to earlier from the 7th canto, that the Antyaja are mentioned after the Sadvistri. So those who are born outside of the Varnashram system. So in ISKCON today, mostly if you ask a member of ISKCON or a devotee, what Varna are you, you'll receive some answer along the lines of, I have no Varna. Everybody in Kali Yuga is a Shudra. I'm beyond the Varnashram system, some combination of those kind of things. So mostly inside ISKCON, in terms of the social organization, we are talking about discrimination or distinction between the Antyaja, and they are Vaishnavas. So here I'm describing the fully developed Varnashram system that we are here to, I'm just going to straight up say it, impose upon the human society for the next 10,000 years. So the woman is born into a family, and she has particular qualities of her birth, and then she has a social standing of her family. So she should be married to a man who has similar qualities, or if not similar qualities, of the same caste, of a higher caste. And according to these rules of, like, she should marry as a later wife at a lower caste than previous wives. So obviously women have intrinsic kind of proclivities like anyone else does, and they have a family that they come from which kind of situates them in society in a particular place. And the success of the marriage, the partnership between the man and the woman, among other factors that influence it, is going to be her social standing, because women are by nature hypergamous and they want to marry up. They don't want to. If you take a woman who has the nature of a Shudra and marry her to a man who has the nature of a Brahmana, for example, they are not going to gel as well as if they have a similar nature. And if she comes from a Shudra family, then she's going to, well, she's going to degrade him. But if she comes from a Brahmana family and he comes from a Shudra family, even if they marry for love, she's going to resent him over time because her social standing will be impacted. And the case of Daksha and Shiva and Sati demonstrates that here was this woman who was the daughter of a noble Aryan, a Kshatriya, progenitor, who was married to someone who was essentially outside the Varnashram system completely. So he had a status lower than the Shudras. And so when she went back to see her family at the family Christmas, the Daksha Yagya, and they were all bagging out her husband, she felt so incensed by that she took her own life. So you had there the combination of extreme chastity to her husband, and then the kind of problem thrown into its greatest extreme of this marrying down across the social spectrum and the problems that causes. In terms of, and now I will, with my last couple of minutes, speak to the situation of the Antyaja members of ISKCON as we are mostly constituted in our society today. Should women be independent and have their own kind of activities? Let me just say one other thing. So the woman has a color, a Varna, and when she's married to a husband, she alloys him and changes his color. So if you take one metal and mix it with another metal, you get an alloy. So if you take a woman from another Varna and marry her to a man from another Varna, they become alloyed. And I have experience of that in this lifetime, because my Brahminical nature, which I'm on a tatashta in this body, between Maharaj Yudhisthira, who is the the sage among the Kshatriyas, or Drona, who is the teacher among the warriors. And then depending on the wife that I'm married to, it fortifies one side or the other of that nature. So because my wife, Danna Devi, is a Manushya Kshatriya, that stabilizes me in that position. In the absence of an external social structure where you're born into a Kshatriya family and the external society relates to you as that role in society, my observation is that the greatest reinforcement of the natural proclivity in terms of as we're building the system comes from the alloying of the woman and the man together. So in terms of women acting independently and manifesting the activities of the Varnas, so in the last 3 generations here in the West, the basic biology of the human female has been modified through contraception, which means that the Stri Dharma, because it's intersectional, she has the guna and the karma, she has the birth, she has the family, but then she also has the primary consideration of being a mother and the means of reproduction of the human race. But because that is suppressed by contraception, the Stri Dharma has gone to the background and the guna and karma of the human being has come to the foreground. So women in the West now are biologically more similar to men than they are in many cases to women, human women of the past whose biology is not being modified in that way.
One more minute. Yeah.
Hang on. 1 second. Don't take that out of your ear, please.
Sorry.
Okay. And so the intersectionality of that means that when Srila Prabhupada arrived in the West, he encountered women who socially are more like men than they are like women in the classical Vedic system. I have 30 seconds left, and so I will say this to close my case. Some critics of Srila Prabhupada say that his backwards views on social arrangements that are expressed in his writing are evidence of cultural conditioning from a colonial or earlier past of India. I say that they are a view into the future of humanity on this planet as female biology comes back to its natural state and the technological intervention, the transhumanist agenda, is defeated by the arrangement of the Lord through the demigods who have taken birth on this planet to usher in the next 10,000 year golden age of Daivivan Ashram Dham and Harinam Sankirtan Yagya. Hare Krishna. So that concludes my 10 minutes. And so now we have Jivanmukta, your turn to reply to that.
The way I would like to address this is, how did Srila Prabhupada, what did Srila Prabhupada say about prescribed duties for women? As I said, I'm not going to argue the point whether women have certain characteristics and quality that may resemble or may, as you said, may complement a kshatriya or a brahmin or vaishya. Of course they do. The point I think that our audience wants to hear is, how do I live as a woman within ISKCON, as a Vaishnavi? What is my prescribed duty? Especially with this controversy with women wanting to become guru. That ultimately is based on the fact that we see women as Brahmins from a prescribed occupational duty standpoint. This has to be understood. This is what we have to address. How do women act? If a woman inspires you in your kshatriya dharma, that's her role. That's what she's supposed to be doing. But what is the activity that she performs on a day-to-day basis according to how Srila Prabhupada saw this? Now, one thing we can say for certain is that Prabhupada wanted to establish a Varnashram college wherein the various Varnas are trained. In a discussion regarding that Varnashram college, a question was asked, well, what about the women? Prabhupada said, no, they don't attend. The women are not going to attend. They learn automatically at home. So the point is that they get no Varna training. They do not get Brahminical training. They do not get Kshatriya training. Vaishya training is certainly not something that they're going to get, aside from learning how to plant and, learn from their husband. Even as far as Shudra, that is the class for a man. A woman's responsibility is to assist her husband and take on the mood of her husband. Even if she marries out of her so-called Varna, she still takes the mood of her husband. And the examples are many within the Bhagavatam. We have Draupadi, we have Devahuti. We have Shantanu, Bhishma Dev's father, married a fisherwoman. From a fisherwoman on the banks of the river, catching fish with her husband, or with her father, she was elevated as queen of the nation. She gave birth to two, great heroes. Vyasadeva was actually her son. She was impregnated by Parashara Muni. She was a fisherwoman. She takes the mood of her husband and serves him in that capacity. So that's my point. And this is the confusion that we have in our devotee society, that women actually consider themselves Brahmins equally as men. They consider themselves kshatriyas like men. They are not so. It is, and the evidence is right through Prabhupada's teachings. Not only Prabhupada, I have quotes here from Bhaktivinoda Thakur. We have Hari Bhakti Vilas in so many areas. In fact, even in the Bhagavad Gita, when Lord Krishna describes, those who are even the low class people, low class divisions that are able to perform pure devotional service, Vaishyas, Shudras, and Stri, Papayoni, they're always classified and mentioned differently. They're never considered to be part of Shudras even. It's always Shudras and Sri, different categories. And their prescribed duties are different as well. Kali Yuga's made a farce of everything, Prabhupada said. You got police women, you've got, women politicians, you've got, female lawyers, and it's just become a farce. But it's Kali Yuga. But as devotees, you truly want to create a revolution? Well, then introduce the Vedic culture, the culture of Krishna, the culture that represents the society of the spiritual world. This Varnashram isn't just some temporary, mechanism that's rejected once we go to the spiritual world. When we read about the pastimes of Vaikuntha, of Dwarka within the spiritual world, they're all the social divisions that we see within Varnashram Dharma. The women behave like the women are directed to within the Shastra. Their occupational duties are the same, except it's in the spiritual realm. You don't have women vying for roles that are men's. That is distinctly a quality of Kali Yuga. This undermines the male energy as well, just like what you were saying. Your wife inspires you. That's how it should be. The analogy is like the woman is like the earth. The man's the seed. The man is the one who holds the potency. The earth nurtures that. And the combination of fertile earth and powerful seed brings forth incredible fruit. But the seed is different than the earth that nurtures. And within the Hare Krishna societies, there is so much confusion over this because we still have senior devotees going around thinking that this woman is a Brahmin. On the spiritual platform, yes, everyone is a Brahmin. On the spiritual platform, a devotee is beyond Brahmin. But just like in Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna says that even Janak Maharaj performed his duty. Even I, Lord Krishna says, I have no reason to perform my duty, but even I perform my duty within the Varnashram system. Why? To establish an example for others to follow. So the Hare Krishna movement is not just some religion. It's a cultural movement. We are to introduce the culture of Krishna. That is the revolution. As I mentioned earlier, Bhaktisiddhanta wanted the Western culture destroyed. Everything about it is contrary to Vedic culture. Our women within the Hare Krishna movement have to understand, even though they may not be able to be like that perfect Vedic wife right now, at the very least, the principle has to be accepted. Just like Lord Krishna says, even if you don't, or Prabhupada says in the Bhagavad Gita, that even if you don't accept, even if you can't follow, don't envy the instructions of Krishna. You may not be able to follow them. You may not be able to surrender to them. But we accept them as being true and valid despite our inability to follow them strictly. Yeah.
You've got 1 minute left, Prabhu, if you want to take it. You don't have to.
No, I could, there's no point. Like I could give quotes and references, but there are so many. And I think it's the most important point I think I want to make is that Prabhupada is attracting us from the peripheries of civilization He's bringing us into Krishna consciousness somehow or other, as he says in the Adalila chapter 7, verse 31 and 32, I believe it is. Somehow or other, he's contriving means to bring us and attract us to Krishna. But once we come to Krishna, it's the responsibility of the senior devotees to boil that milk, to introduce the rules and regulations, to make us genuine Vaishnavas. Bhakti Vinod Thakur says that there's no distinction between the Smarta Brahmin and the Vaishnava as far as following the rules. The Smarta Brahmins following the rules is vacant of genuine perspective, of pure devotional perspective. The Vaishnava follows those rules automatically, but as a service out of pure devotion, automatically follows them. The rules aren't rejected.
Time. Thank you, Prabhu.
You're welcome.
So I want to approach this from the other side. Do men have a Varna? Yeah. So among the Antyajas, the men do not have a Varna, and so the men and the women are interchangeable. They do all kinds of things. In the Varnashram system, and it's important here because we say, oh, the women this, the women that, but it's like, who is speaking? You know, like a man can say, oh, no, women don't have a Varna, but the question is, what is your Varna? What does it mean to have a Varna? Well, everybody has qualities acquired from the three modes of material nature. Even a man of knowledge acts according to the three modes, the qualities he has acquired from the three modes of material nature. Therefore, what can repression accomplish? But to be a Varna in the Chaturvanya Mayashrishtam social organization system of Daivi Varnashram Dharma means something else. And so I would like to, in order to elucidate that, talk about two different scenarios that I heard kind of collapse together in what you were talking about. And that is, we can descriptively examine what is in the Shastra, but then in terms of creating a prescription for the modern world, and part of that prescription is that how do you take the Antyaja population and move them into the Varnashram system? So I want to consider two different scenarios, and these are first generation and second generation devotees, where a first generation devotee is someone who comes from the Antyaja population of non-devotees in the Western world and then joins ISKCON, becomes a Hare Krishna. So this is what I would say for a female joining. Find out what your Varna is from doing the astrology, the Varna calculation. Okay, born on this day at this time in this place. Okay, this is my Varna by birth, my acquired nature. And then find a qualified partner who has a compatible Varna to yours and who owns that Varna. And what do I mean by they own that Varna? What I mean by that is that they acknowledge that this is my acquired nature, and then this is the social role that corresponds to that, and I am that I am a Vaishya, or I am that I am a Ksatriya, or I am that I am a Brahmana, as much as I am that I am a man. I'm that flat on it. Someone asks me, what is your Varna? I do not hesitate. I'm a Ksatriya. I will hesitate to answer that question as much as I'll hesitate when someone says, you know, I need to use the bathroom. Do you need to use the men's or the ladies? There's no hesitation for me. I'll go to the men's bathroom. I'm looking for the men's bathroom. You know, some places you go to, they have them in different sides of the building or whatever. So owns their Varna. And what that means is that, yeah, okay, I have the inclination to act in this way, but there are a certain set of obligations that come with that role, and I will respond to those obligations. Just like Arjuna is on the battlefield and he does not feel like he wants to fight, he doesn't want to fight, but he must do it because it is his duty. So the Brahmana, the Kshatriya, the Vaishya, and the Shudra, they all have duties that they must perform even when they don't feel like it. So there's no wiggling out of this like, oh, in Kali Yuga we're all Shudras, or I'm outside the Varna, or, you know, we don't have Varnashram. It's like Varnashram exists where there is an Aryan whose speaking is that I am a Brahmana, I am a Kshatriya, I am a Vaishya. in this way and then owns that. So find a qualified partner who has a compatible Varna and owns it, get married, have sex, have children. And then the rest of it will sort itself out, because nature's own way will take care of it. And you have intersectional, your Varna and Sri Dharma that intersect, and then there's a relationship with your husband. So these kind of intellectualizing about things in the absence of practical on-the-court application, it's like if you're an Antiyajaya and you say we don't have Varnashram, and when you're questioned what as a man, what is your Varna, and you can't answer that, it's all speculation, and it's off-the-court speculation by uncommitted players. So first generation female, find out your Varna from astrology, find a qualified partner who has a compatible Varna and owns it, get married, have sex, have children, and then let the rest of it sort itself out. And this is, of course, in addition to chanting your 16 rounds, follow the 4 regs. Second generation is a different situation. Now, Prabhu, you talked about sending the Varnashram college. Women don't go to the Varnashram college. The unit of socialization for women is the family. And so when my daughter is here, she's naturally going to pick up from being around our family unit and doing the activities that we do. And she's going to remember from when I was growing up, I saw my father and my mother doing these things, and so I also do them. As a side note, I have noticed that I've got a little bit of time to play with here. The reason why women and their stepmother don't get on so much is because they were socialized in different places. So the wife comes into the house, she wants to wash the dishes. The stepmother is watching her wash the dishes, and because she learned to do it, the mother learned to do it from her mother, the wife learned to do it from her mother, and they've learned different ways of doing it, which to them, each of them, is the right way to do it. So the mother sees the stepdaughter, washing the dish, says, oh, no, you don't do it that way, like this. This is how you do it. This is the right way to do it. And then the wife is like, she's attacking my mother. She's making my mother wrong. So there's a whole thing that goes on there. It's a side note. Anyway, Sri Dharma, the unit of socialization is the family. So in terms of the son, he's born into, whatever family he's born into, a Vaishya family, a Kshatriya family, a Brahmin family. He's sent to live in the home of the guru, the family of the guru, the Gurukula, the family of the guru, with the wife of the guru, who is one of the 7 mothers. And that guru is a Brahmana, a local Brahmana, and he determines the qualification and the qualities of the child of the twice-born and educates them in the basic same thing that all twice-born get, and then with specialization for what his Varna will be in the future. Which, if people are following, the strict Vedic system and they're conceiving at the precise time and everything, they'll have these children who will be a match for their family, and that they won't go down. Maybe even their children will go up. So the boys are educated in that way. The females, the women, the girls, they're educated in the unit of socialization, which is the family. And they'll come out of that with the abilities that they come out. And then maybe some woman gets married and then she finds a qualified compatible partner and they have sex and they don't have children for whatever reason. Well, what will happen then? Well, then her guna will come, her other guna as a human being will start to come to the fore, because the Sri Dharma of looking after the children's not there for her. Maybe the husband takes another wife who then, has children, and she has some involvement in that, but then she has all this other time on her hands. So what does she start to do? And so thus we find in the Vedic civilization that there are women who, by nature's way, that other nature comes to the fore, and they can even become elevated and famous as great sages like Gargi, the daughter of Garga Muni. There are something like 30 great Vedic sages who are female. And then even if they don't, they still, as Rukmini did, like driving the chariot when Krishna came to kidnap her from the palace of her father, because that was just the kind of thing that is caught as much as it is taught. And so women do have the ability to be a Varna, but in nature's way in the society without contraception, a lot of their energy is simply taken up with, having children, looking after children, and they find themselves to be very fulfilled with that. And so that other nature never comes to the fore. Among the Antyaja, those who are outside the Vedic system, and especially among those who practice the transhumanist modification of the biology of the female body, they have to deal with the situation where the Sri Dharma recedes into the background and then the other guna comes to the foreground. And so these are the kind of problems that are dealt with there. And so I say that all that will be adjusted with the eradication of birth control. And so therefore, Western civilization must be crushed and its industrial capacity for producing birth control destroyed as part of our mission to impose Daivi Varnashram Dharma on this planet for the next 10,000 years. It's going to happen anyway by the Lord's own will. Maybe a meteorite hits or something. And then all the speculation about like what should be done is going to be just off the table, be mute, because it's just going to happen anyway. So that's what I have to say about that. Param Vijayate Sri Krishna Sankirtanam, total world victory of Hare Krishna. So that concludes our opening and responses.
If I could just say, Prabhu.
Yeah.
I think we really have to focus on the ultimate goal of our discussion of Varnashram Dharma, which is really solidifying our grhasta ashram, our families. Varnashram Dharma is primarily there for the grihastas. If everyone is brahmachari and sannyasi, there'd be no need for Varnashram Dharma, Varnashram institution. The institution is to organize the grihastas. Extremely important. Sri Dharma, the responsibilities of women. Without women cooperating to take those roles, there will be no family stability. None. It's just a pipe dream. You know, when we were homeschooling our children, we came in contact, as my daughter's coming in contact now with her homeschooling of my grandchildren, incredible groups of, Christian groups out there that are actually practicing Sri Dharma. Their women are incredible examples of Sri Dharma. Strong, powerful families. Very strong men. Powerful men. We're missing that. For some reason, Krishna consciousness, I don't know what it is. I mean, initially we attracted all, the hippies and now we're attracting, not so much in India, but in the West anyway, we're attracting, people with a certain mindset. If we read Shastra, we realize the role of a woman is purely supportive, inspirational. She's the inspiration of the man. She is the domestic goddess. Without her taking that role, we will never fulfill Srila Prabhupada's goal of establishing the Vedic culture. That is revolutionary. Going against the grain, going against this feminist impulse, which has been ingrained in us for generations. Even prior to the 70s, it was there. If our women don't understand the significance of their taking that role, we're never going to. In fact, we're also going to completely misunderstand the Siddhanta of the Shastra. We're going to misunderstand it.
Great, thank you, Prabhu. So let's open it up for discussion. Love to hear from our live studio audience, made up of Danna, Isvari, and Muchukunda. Who's going to go first?
Sure. Hare Krishna. I think both parties had really strong standalone points, and then I also heard some maybe overlapping points. And I've been writing down a bunch of things I wanted to say. However, at this point, I think for me, Jivanmukta Dasa's last point he just made there, I'm kind of, that became really alive for me about the goal is having the strong grhasta units and what that looks like. And I think when he was presenting, maybe the first time, he was saying, you know, Prabhupada has said there's so many qualified women in Shastra, you know, the women can be just as qualified. However, they're not required to take up these positions. Actually, the best position for them is to be a supporting position in their family to their husband. And that cooperation helped strengthen the family unit. And I think that's huge. So there's a recognition of that ladies have their own tendencies, and you know, the guna karma, that's definitely clear. I was saying to my husband, when I did my own personal astrology, it came up Vaishya. But in life, I'm a teacher, a Montessori school teacher, and I have a way of presenting and, you know, getting knowledge and then sharing it in a certain way that maybe, you know, makes me think I have some Brahminical tendencies. But regardless of all of that, I see myself as woman and mother, and in my family unit, that those duties come first. So yeah, I think the last thing that Jivanmukta Das said actually was the cherry on top that kind of really put things in a clear perspective. So that's where I'm leaning right now. Yeah.
Donna, do you want to say anything?
No, you go ahead. You guys are team.
Okay. Yeah, appreciated all the points that were made, and you know, as I was hearing them, I was kind of trying to synthesize them, or you know, see how they could exist, you know, coexist in the same, you know, at the same time. You know, I think it was Einstein. He said that intelligence is to be able to hold two apparently opposing ideas simultaneously, or accommodate them both. So what I'm kind of getting from all of this so far is that the Varnashram, the Varnas and the ashrams are for men, and as my wife just said, you know, and what Jivanmukta Prabhu was saying is, the wife is the inspiration for what the men are up to, you know. And Prabhupada says like that, women are the energy of man. So sort of like something that I'm also taking away from this is that the scriptures are primarily directed to men. And that might be a left turn, I'm not sure. But, you know, my wife wrote down something here, something about everyone becomes a guru, everyone become guru. Was you referring to the verse where Lord Chaitanya? Yeah. So when she wrote that, I thought, well, that was meant for everyone, means all the men. It seems, you know, the Shastra always says he, you know, it seems to be that the Shastra is for men to study, and that kind of like the way that I communicate with other women in the community is through their man. I expect that if I communicate something to the man, then that will, you know, that's the way to talk to the women. So maybe it's that the Shastra is similar, that it's for the men, and then the women naturally benefit from the Shastra by dint of their relationship with the man. I'd love to hear thoughts on that. But yeah, just this idea that women are the fuel, the cheerleaders, and they're the ones making the people to do Varnashram. They're making the people, you know, raising them. And that's like a dharma in itself. It seems that there's Varnashram dharma for men, and then there's Stri dharma for women, which is just as important.
I'd like to speak to that point about the Shastra.
Mhm.
We are reading Shastras that are meant for the Antyaja and the women, the Shudras and below. So there are Shastras that are meant for men and not for women, but we are not reading those because they are meant for the twice-born. The Bhagavad Gita appears in the Mahabharata, which is written for the less intelligent. So I would be careful about making that distinction. This is one thing that I think needs to be very careful is people like, well, men and we're women. And it's like, yeah, but are you actually a man? Do you know what that actually means? Like if I say to someone, what is your Varna? And then they're like, oh, well, I don't know, but I know that I'm a man. It's like, you are Antyaja. You are like Shudras, the laborer class, the women and less. In that you are in that category, not in the category of men, according to the Vedic idea. So yeah, we are studying and using the Shastras that are meant for the laborer class, women and those outside the system.
If I could say that despite that, Prabhu, despite the fact that they were meant for the less intelligent, the message comes through loud and clear about the Dharma of women. It comes through loud and clear. So the Shastra is meant for us, and we should take that lesson. That the exactly like Muchukunda Prabhu said, the Shastra, that they're speaking to us. The stories are something that the women can learn from, and there are wonderful stories. And this is why I'm amazed that our educational systems within our Krishna societies aren't presenting the stories of Nala and Damayanti, Anasuya and Sita, Draupadi's talks with Satyabhama. So many wonderful, wonderful stories that we can imbibe the fundamental teachings of those Vedas that are for the Brahmins. We can imbibe them through these stories. That's why they were written, because of our less intelligence. Yes. So let's study these stories and imbibe the lessons, but these lessons aren't there. I mean, I have them. If anyone, by the way, anyone who's listening to this, if you want, the story of Nala and Damayanti and the discussion between Draupadi and Satyabhama is wonderful. Those are incredible lessons for women on how to treat their husbands. Of course, it's there in the Bhagavatam as well. Bhagavatam is not for just less intelligent people. The Bhagavatam is the Purana, the Amala Purana.
Straight facts. Danna, Davey, to you.
Okay. What do I have to say now? During your discussion, Prabhu, so I'm just going to change this. You were mentioning part of the scriptures where, you were categorizing the 4 different varnas, and down there is the woman, the Shudras, and below that is the woman, and so all of that. So there is a distinction of like that woman that you're talking with all of these characteristics, and also the woman that it's now that strong woman that is inspiration for a man, and they are the base for society, and the powerful woman that is bringing out this Vedic civilization, or the pillar of the humanity. So can we make a clear distinction here? Because it seems to me that, okay, the scriptures talk about women being less than other varnas, below. And after that, we come to this idea or discussion that woman is more powerful than this. Are we talking about the woman, a person in a female body, a soul, okay, a soul and a female body that comes with all of the baggages from karmic thing and karmically possess the body of a woman. And then somehow we're talking also about this soul and the female body that is, the inspiration of a man. So that means it's way more potent.
No, I gave the example of the seed that's planted in the earth. Are you going to say what's more potent, the seed or the earth?
Equally both, because you cannot live without the earth. Nothing grows on the earth, right?
Exactly, but they're very, very
Unless
different.
there is a seed the earth will produce, and then a seed itself will die without the earth. So there are two complementing each other. There is the symbiotic relationship here.
Exactly.
So let's make it clear here. In the karmic life, I, as a female, experiencing the ups and downs of a female, the emotions that comes, my karmic baggage that I have in this lifetime. Yeah, I can think at lower as whatever, or let's say people or females can behave in such a lower case, in a low ways. It's still that female has the potency to become, as the scripture says, the inspiration of a man, to be the pillar of a society. So, like, the soul with those beautiful qualities that Krishna gave to that person. So it appears that once you are Krishna consciousness, you have basically you ¿cómo se dice con el diamante fue?
Diamond, pulido, polished.
Yeah. So it's basically even males, that applies to both genders. Once you polish out of your karma and you focus your life based on the scriptures, then we understand as we are powerful, and as a female and male, we are complementing each other. Because some females can understand how is that possible that you can talk about women being the lower class. Hey, we are, we do a lot more things in life. We create a child, we raise a child, we give our emotions. It's kind of painful for a female to hear that you are lower than anything else.
If I can address that, first of all, I'd like to address the fact that women are categorized. There's two categories of women, according to Shastra: chaste women and unchaste women. And that stresses the fact and the role that women play in society. A chaste woman is the diamond. A chaste woman, without female chastity, there is no sane society, certainly no Vedic society, certainly no society that is going to encourage spiritual development. The chastity, the shyness of a woman is integral, non-negotiable. And this is why Prabhupada always stated the importance of training the little girls and how to be devoted to their husband. Shastra says that. Devoted to the husband. The husband should be seen as the representative of the Supreme Personality of God. My position, as I've said many times in public, is that if you're uninitiated, your husband is initiated, you accept your husband as the guru. Perfect arrangement. Now, I just want to bring up one thing because the sentiment that you were expressing was one kind of a sense of humiliation and degradation that women may feel by being in this position. Let me read to you what Draupadi said to Satyabhama. She says, "I wait upon them, my husbands, with a deep devotion of the heart, by restraining jealousy." Many women are jealous of their husbands. Many. "And relinquishing any sense of degradation or humiliation that may arise due to the services I perform." This is Draupadi speaking. "My husbands, the son of Pritha, handsome like the moon, are mighty warriors that blaze like the sun or fire." This is how she sees her husband. Her husbands. she has to relinquish, because it tries to come into her heart, that sense of degradation. She's thinking, I'm Draupadi, I'm a princess, yet look what I'm doing. I'm just like this servant of these men. This is how women of Kali Yuga think. This is how these viragos and these battle axes of modern day society that repel most men are going to China to find women to marry. Why? Because of these loudmouth women that would feel degraded, and they say it outright, that how can I live like that? You degrade me by even saying I should be that. I feel degraded even thinking of being like that to my husband. I'm equal to my husband. Well, that's not according to Draupadi. And if you're a devotee, and if you're following, if you're chanting Hare Krishna, then what are you doing? What are we doing? These are the people that Prabhupada wanted us to follow. Gandhari willingly blinded herself because she didn't want anyone to think that she was superior to her husband. These are the women that Prabhupada wanted our women to study and follow. It's so important. And these women are powerful, glorious. They're the foundation, just like Muchukunda Prabhu said, through their womb come these great kshatriyas and brahmins. Through the wombs of these type of women, you get these devotees. These are the wombs these demigods are waiting for to come through. But instead, what do we get? We get women that are wanting to be temple presidents, women that want to be GBCs, women that want to be gurus, women that have men at their feet, women that are not just like, it's not a spontaneous thing. They are canvassing. They're canvassing for that position. It's absurd. It's absurd. And these instructions are there.
If I can build on what you're saying there, Prabhu, the counterpoint to that, the other side of that, is men who are outside the Varnashram system. It's like, in the absence of men who are Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, and Vaishyas, well, all hell's going to break loose. You know, and perhaps a different way to look at this, I've just been looking at the 7th canto, the section that you described, chapter 11. Mm-hmm. When I look at it, the way you described it is you said that then below the Shudras, I mean, that section is below the Shudras section on the page.
No, you're right. You're right. I could have used a different word.
Well, it's described after they're described, right? And basically what I see when I look at it is like, oh, women are in a category of their own.
Yes.
They have their own category.
Exactly.
They are, in a sense, like orthogonal to the 4 Varnas.
Exactly.
It's intersectional.
I just want to mention, as a Kshatriya, I think you would be interested in this. Did you know that during the Battle of Kurukshetra, that there was Shudras, Vaishyas, Kshatriyas, and Brahmins fighting? It wasn't just Kshatriyas on that field, because the point is that within the category of Shudra, like it's not just so cut, it's not so black and white. Within a category of Shudra, you may have very martial spirited men. Likewise with Vaishyas. Ekalavya, you know the story of Ekalavya and how he lost his thumb, right? You know that story?
Yes, he gave it as Dakshina to Dronacharya.
Yeah, well, he fought in the Battle of Kurukshetra. He was on the side of the Kauravas. And in fact, it's described that there are groups of martial spirited men that weren't even within the category of Varnashram. They were outside of the Bharat Varsha. But they came on the side of Kauravas. So the point is that within any category, you're going to get these variations, which is natural.
something else I wanted to touch on from what Isvari was saying. The feminist impulse, you mentioned it, Jivanmukta Prabhu, the feminist impulse, how do I put this? Just dive straight into it. The basic unit in Vedic system and in biology is the family. It's the basic unit. And within that family, a woman has the opportunity to be a queen. But the attack on the family means that instead of to destroy that kingdom, I turn both of those people into Shudras and make them just cogs in my machine. And then I destroy the family structure. Otherwise, the structure of the society in Varnashram looks like a honeycomb and interlocking and then larger and larger aggregations of it. So you have your small family, then you have your clan, and you see that on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, there are different family groupings there. And the big issue of it is that there's this divide that cuts through the honeycomb in that case. But the honeycomb structure of society is destroyed by that. And this feminist impulse, now, I don't want to sound like a conspiracy theorist, but it's a deliberate attack on the family. Those who destroy the family tradition dwell always in hell. And the Asuras, they're all about that because they want to control the human race. And the family structure is I don't even know how to say this word. It's Bulwark. Do you know how to pronounce that? Bulwark or something? It's in a
Bulwark?
boat. In a
bulwark.
ship. A bulwark. Yeah,
Yeah.
the doors that close and stop the water from getting into the next section. The family is that. It's a protective boundary around culture, the transmission of knowledge and values to the next generation. And by smashing all of that, the internal cell structure of society, I now just get to pump in whatever kind of poison that I want into the whole thing.
Yeah.
So the feminist impulse is the propaganda that you can, as a woman, can achieve self-actualization. And this is purely material because in the Asura's world, it's all material. There's no self-realization as a spirit soul, but self-actualization materially for you is to suppress your biological reproduction and then be like a man and have a career. And the result of that is the destruction of the family unit. And what women miss out on is the opportunity to be a queen of her own domain.
And Prabhu, first, she destroys herself. She destroys all of her potentiality, her spiritual and material potentiality. Prabhupada, the Vedas clearly establish a woman should never be independent, ever. And our society is a complete opposite. That's why you're absolutely right. It is a conspiracy of the demonic principle. The very thing that the Vedas consider precious. And it's not just the Vedas, but you have even the Muslim communities, Christian communities, like the spiritually really serious communities. They feel the same way. They may express it differently, but their women are never independent. They are never allowed to just roam without being protected by a man. As poisonous as that sounds to the ears of many devotees, even, that's what Shastra says.
My auntie Govinda is up in the comment section. She says, it's not a conspiracy theory. There are actually documents or plans that are available that proves this. Even worse is the transgender insanity.
Absolutely.
We're doing a podcast tomorrow at the same time with Govinda Dasa. She's going to be joining us so we can go more into depth there. My wife is tapping me on the leg here. She has something to say.
Didn't finish what I was going to say, but anyways.
And then it's Isvari.
All
Ladies'
right.
right of reply.
So when I'm speaking about these new people coming and understanding what is Krishna consciousness. Because this podcast is not only for devotees. This podcast is basically for everyone that have the chance to hear it for whatever karmic reason. Krishna will put them with this link. Anyways, in this discussion, we have to be, it is already clear the females or the woman has a different category in itself. we must emphasize that you said, the chastity of a woman is powerful, the purity is the force, therefore even demigods will take birth in the womb of a woman. That happened previously, right?
Mhm.
Where chant mantras unite for the body, biology of the body formation with a man, but through the mantras, the purity, the chastity, demigods wanted to come. And that can happen, that can happen. In order for that to happen, we women must understand well what is our position. In the material way, our minds work in different ways. We either degrade ourselves or we upgrade ourselves. We elevate ourselves. That comes to the matter of your choice. So you either choose to go in this world becoming a victim of your mind, the societal expectations for what a woman should be doing, what a woman shouldn't be doing. But you must understand, as a woman, you are a spiritual soul, that you have all the qualities and characteristics to become that woman that is powerful and the base of the society. So it is a choice. Do you want to say anything?
So I do. Yeah.
Done.
No, that's-
Okay. And Isvari, you had your hand up.
Yes, thank you. Some things I jotted down just thinking about it. The topic about women and Varna. I wrote, it's not just about, does the woman have a Varna? What is her Varna? It's how she uses that. And if it's outside of the home, it can be destructive. And kind of going back to, how there are examples where Prabhupada is, glorifying these chaste women. I think that should be highlighted more, because sometimes we hear these other quotes, but actually Prabhupada is glorifying that certain type of woman, very much so. And also for the woman to, we're part of a spiritual, trying to create a spiritual culture, civilization, and that's where we see each other as spirit, soul, and as devotees. So if the woman can acknowledge that her husband is a devotee, there's no competition, there's service. There's an attitude of service there, and it's very complementary. In the material world, no one, dasanu, so there's competition, and the woman has to be better than the man. If I'm being put down, then I have to show up, and that's when it gets all out of control. But I think that Prabhupada does an excellent job at highlighting this type of woman and actually empowering the female readers to, aspire to, you can be that queen. The humility, in Bhagavad Gita, the qualities, the feminine qualities are listed, shyness and all these things. And if she even possesses one, she's meant to be, seen as, successful and opulent. But it gets back to my point that if we can also, see each other as spirit, soul, and as a devotee, and serve from that mentality, then there's no need for competition. There's actually a very cohesive, harmonious relationship between man and woman, despite Varna and blah, 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 blah. And that's all, I guess it all comes back to keep the family unit strong. Keep it strong. Yeah,
I just wanted to speak to that as well. It's so important that the men and women doesn't compete. And I think the shyness of woman lets the man's guard down. What's right there for me, because of my conditioning, is to try to assert, superiority. Prabhupada said that man naturally wants to be superior. He points to the biological reality as, by dint of the man's, bodily strength, the man wants to be superior. I can't remember the exact words, but that kind of flares up when when women are contaminated by this feminism. They have a competitive streak themselves, and they assert themselves and their expertise, unlike the ladies we're hearing about in the Sastra, who would blind themselves voluntarily because I don't want to be seen as superior to my husband. But yeah, just recently I got present to that. Like, I don't have to assert myself with my wife. I don't have to compete. There's no need to. We're on the same team. And it just, just to add weight to what you were saying, Devi, about, being complementary. So, my wife is a Vaishya and her Gana is human, and I'm a Rakshasic Brahmin. So, right now I'm working on some, on my economic base, and my wife is perfect for that. She's the perfect person to consult with. Like, what do you think of this idea? Or if someone comes and says, hey, can you paint my dog? It's like, well, what do you think? Is that going to be a good, is that aligned with, a good, is that a good business choice? So yeah, complementary as opposed to competitive, super important.
If I could make I jotted a few points down there that were really significant. I want to start by saying that in the first canto, a very, very famous verse, Vasudevi Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojita, that by performing devotional service within your prescribed area, it doesn't matter as a woman, shooter, it doesn't matter. When you perform your devotional service to Lord Krishna, fully sincere, fully dedicated, that you will automatically get jnanam and vairagya, because jnanam and vairagya is already within us. It's not something that you have to go out and attain or somewhere. It's already within us, and the Lord will reveal it. He says that in Bhagavad Gita. He carries what we lack. He will give us that knowledge. He's a source of knowledge, remembrance, and forgetfulness. So the woman should understand that by performing, and the man, Prabhupada says that the primary qualification of a husband, if you're looking for a husband for your wife, look for a hard worker. Primary qualification. Find someone who works hard. But the point being that we perform our duties within our occupational areas sincerely, with full devotion, offering it to Krishna, and we will achieve what the Brahmins achieve by doing their work. That's the magic of Varnashram Dharma. It's not that you get any less, you get the same. You're not left behind. The women are not left behind. It's just a wonderful way that the Lord has created, that he's arranged and organized us according to our contaminated modes of nature, based on how the modes have affected us. He's organized society in such a way that we can all achieve the highest goal of life, which is ultimately prema pumarto mahan, pure devotional service. It's not just it's not something that we are excluded from. It's not that the Shudras are excluded from that. It's not that the women are excluded from that. But to create peace in society, which is necessary in order for us to progress in our spiritual lives, these are the roles that the Lord's prescribed for us. We should not envy those roles, just like Draupadi was saying. We shouldn't feel humiliated. What's to be humiliated to help a qualified husband, a husband who's prepared to go out and work for you and die for you? You ask most men, especially when they have a chaste, devoted, shy wife, they will die for you. And what's shameful of that for the woman when you have someone like that next to you?
If I could build on what you're saying, Prabhu, and before I do that, I'd like to pull in this comment from Govinda Dasi, who's watching us now. She says, in the USA, most women from my older generation certainly wanted to have a stable marriage and family, but that didn't work out very well. Most found themselves abandoned with kids on welfare and without a husband to support them because the husbands did not live up to their responsibilities. This is why feminism was born, at least in the modern society in the US. I don't know about your countries. Then I've noticed that the next generation, the children of these ladies, had no hopes or plans for such kind of dependent roles. Instead, I saw they were more concerned with getting into law school or med school or starting businesses. It was done as a result of their mothers being abandoned. This includes my own mother, by the way. However, the so-called feminism in the ISKCON movement is somewhat different. It happened for similar reasons, i.e. women abandoned by their husbands, but moreover, it seems some very strange, perverted philosophies were promoted by the immature sannyasis who had obvious disdain for women due to their own suppressed lustiness or a different taste, but also horrific attitudes toward the children. I have dozens of god sisters who have been through this, and most will simply say, I totally agree with you, but it is idealistic. Get the rest of it here. And it did not work in the real world that we experienced. So this kind of leads into the point that I wanted to make here, that I would like to make, which is, I think what we're actually talking about here is not do women have a Varna, because they clearly do. And what Counter Prabhu is arguing against in his posts on Facebook, unfortunately didn't show up today, because I was hoping that, you know, the straw man in the dojo would be like the guy in the street, but it turns out that good against remotes is one thing, good against the living is something else. It's a Star Wars reference. So in the Facebook post, you know, it's like, oh, women, they don't have any qualities. Of course they do. Well, you know, Jivanmukta Prabhu, you didn't come here to tell us that women are colorless mirrors, you know. You actually acknowledge that they're human beings with personalities and proclivities and a history with their family and everything as well. But I think what we're actually talking about here is that, is there a path to independent, individual self-actualization for women? That's really the crux of it, because what's promoted in the West today is that as a woman, your hope for self-actualization is to be a strong, independent boss babe. And to be a mother and a housewife is just like oppressive. It's a waste of your potential. It's them holding you down. And what you get sold on is this dream of that if you can just become more like a man, you know, independent, independently wealthy, and, you know, just independent and on your own 2 feet, that's how you'll become happy. The self-actualization. That's the dream that's being sold. Govinda Dasi's given some of the kind of background towards that, how that attitude has developed and been reinforced. You know, the examples of the previous generations. There's a mother there who said, oh, my husband, you know, your father was no good. He left us. I had to do everything. So you should make sure that you don't have to rely on a man and you can support yourself, because it might happen to you. So, you know, that unit of socialization, the family is now transmitting that message to the daughter. Then they come into the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, and they see this this promise here of this protection. When we say that a woman should never be independent throughout her whole life, when we look at that and examine it as a man, what we're signing up for here is the promise to protect women through their complete life cycle, which means you cannot divorce your wife or leave her, get another one. I'm just going to go into a side thing here. Why not? Let's just like give all the hot takes. Srila Prabhupada in the Bhagavatam, in the purport, I think in the 4th canto, maybe the 3rd, he says, it's a symptom of a demonic society that they forbid polygamy, but they allow men to just hunt women and divorce one after another. You can marry as many women as you want, but you can't maintain more than one of them as your wife. Of course, there's a system of like alimony and all that kind of stuff, but it's demonic that you're allowed to abandon women, and at the same time you can't support more than one.
What you described was there was an article called serial polygamy, that in the West we practice polygamy, but it's serial polygamy, that you can have many wives, but like you said, you can't have them all at the same time, and you can't accept responsibility for them all. You got to like destroy their lives and discard them, and then you can just go to another one and discard them, and just terrible. I could make one point, which I think is very, very important for us to understand, that the Krishna consciousness movement is a dynamic movement. So we're bringing people in from all types of like Dana Devi was saying, all types of situations, karmic situations. You may be bringing in women that are professionals, lawyers, and so on and so forth, which is fine. You don't necessarily want them to give up, their profession, because the ideal situation is to be a stay-at-home wife. But we do have other generations coming through. And so, like Prabhupada said in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, somehow or other we have to attract them to Krishna. And then we introduce all the rules and regulations. And naturally, without envying these instructions, without resenting these instructions, without resenting the rules that Lord Vishnu has provided us, they will be introduced in subsequent generations. We will be able to introduce them, just like your daughter, Prabhu. Your daughter isn't going to go through a situation where she was like fatherless at home. It's different. So we have to understand that what we're talking about are the core principles of Krishna consciousness, of a Krishna conscious society. At the same time, we acknowledge that we're bringing people in that aren't measuring up to that. And that's okay. That's okay. Especially, they have to understand that we're not looking down at them, but they have to understand why the Krishna conscious ethics are superior and why they're necessary to support, even theoretically, even if you can't support them practically because of your circumstance. You might be a single mom. How you got to manage somehow. But the principles should not be envied. They should not be rejected because of our particular situation due to, this Kali Yuga. They should be encouraged. Especially, we should encourage our future generations.
Okay, Dana, Davy's got something to say.
Okay, so you were mentioning about, we should not discourage females that are lawyers or doctors or whatever profession they choose, because although they're in a female body, Krishna, through their karma, they gave them intelligence and different types of intelligence for sure. And we can see here how Krishna and I think it's Bhagavad Gita 10:34, Krishna himself says, among women I am fame, fortune, fine speech, memory, intelligence, steadfastness, and patience. So Krishna has invested those opulences in females. Why do you think Krishna has invested all of these opulences in females?
Why has he invested them?
Yeah.
I can't
this is for
understand Krishna's mind. I don't know.
Exactly. But Krishna himself is saying, I have invested 6 opulences in females. What that's supposed to mean? And how come Krishna has invested 6 wonderful, basically he has 7 opulences, right? We have in Bhagavad Gita 7:12. Krishna has 7 opulences: fame, fortune, fine speech, memory, intelligence, steadfastness, and patience are considered feminine. And Krishna himself, among women I am fame, fortune, fine speech, memory, intelligence, steadfastness, and patience. So basically, to all the female devotees and the new coming ladies that are coming to Krishna consciousness, Krishna has invested these powerful and beautiful qualities in your feminine body. What that's supposed to mean means that you are very powerful, that Krishna himself, he gave himself to you. But we must use it carefully. We must be able to protect those qualities in us and not get corrupted. And what do I mean by not get corrupted? Just because Krishna gave you that, don't misuse it. Use it in your favor. Use it in a way you can be the inspiration for your husband, because you are the source, you are the force for your husband, for your new generation, for your children and the next generations that comes because of you. Therefore, don't waste your energy, don't waste your power, protect it, and allow your husband to protect that. Anyways.
I got something here. I don't want to sound like a conspiracy theorist, so it's not me saying it. It's Vrinda. She's the conspiracy theorist. She says, to what I know, the Rothschilds funded the women liberation movement to get the children in the education system even earlier, break the family unit, and as mother plays an important role in imparting family values, samskar, the children can be deprived of that as well. Also, extract double the tax when both men and women work.
That makes sense.
Follow the money.
I just wanted to mention something that Danna Devi was saying, that those qualities are there, but they can't be covered by Maya. Like by following your Sri Dharma, they automatically manifest. You know, fine speech, that is one of the ways that you endear your husband to you. The goddess of fortune automatically manifests in that household where that woman, where that wife fulfills her Sri Dharma, her occupational duties. It's automatic. Just like we were saying about Jnanam and Vairagyam, these qualities automatically will manifest, but you can't cover them by this feminist, garbage.
Isvari has something to contribute.
Yeah, this is actually an interesting point that I got from watching a video of like a Christian woman, and the title was like, should women work? and then thinking about the type of people that are being attracted to the Christian consciousness movement these days, women who are doctors, lawyers, and holding these high position jobs and doing great work in the world. And this woman was saying, there's nothing wrong with women working and having those inclinations, and then using them to benefit society, as long as mentally she knows her priorities are start at home. So she can be out being a doctor, but if she neglects her household duties, her children, her husband, then from this Christian lady's point of view, it's adharmic, as we would say. Adharmic, yeah. And so she was stressing that for a woman to be powerful in the outside world, she was saying, that's fine. She's inclined. But if that overtakes her main role at home and to her husband and children, if that starts to then become compromised and degrade, then that's actually it's no good. So in that way, the powerful woman, does it all. Women, they do it all, knowing, which comes first and doing all services nicely.
Great point. Govinda Dasi's got you back, Vrinda. She says that it's not a conspiracy theory, it's real history. Govinda Das is coming on tomorrow. Score 1 for the Christians. And I love the way that you put that together, Isvari Kesavi, and that, like, it doesn't have to be an either or. There is a way in which everything can fit together. It's very powerful.
Can I just say also one thing, Prabhu? It's so important. I just want to jump in that all of our perceptions and all our ideas and all of our perspectives as Vaishnavas should come from Shastra. Should come from Shastra. And Rupa Goswami explains that unless we use Shastra as our lens, that we create a disturbance in this material world. So even if we hear from Christians or this or that, or our minds, wherever that source of perspective comes from, must be verified and supported by Shastra. Otherwise, we don't accept it. We don't. And so this whole thing about family life, this whole thing about husband and wife, woman's dharma, it has to be supported by Shastra. And it's not a question of being smarta, like some people say, like such idiocy. It's not being smarta. It's being what devotees are. We see through the eyes of Shastra. Shastra Chakshu, Prabhupada says. We don't just go based on what we think because of our feelings, our experience. No. That's one way of getting knowledge, but it's not perfect. It's imperfect. It has to be supported by Shastra. Must be.
I love it. Yeah, it's not being smarter, it's being smart.
Yes.
I'm going to synthesize those two things together and prove something from the Shastra based on empiricism. But first, my wife has something to contribute. She's been waiting on it for a minute. Okay, go for it.
Okay. So before Prabhu Jivanmukta, you were mentioning, like, the man is the representative of Sri Krishna.
The husband is the sum total of the demigods for the wife. Yes.
And it's vice versa, the female. So if a man gives such a hard time, mistreatment to a woman in the household, Lakshmi Devi won't be there. And it's vice versa too. So that these both teams are playing. They have the same responsibility. It's not one way.
At the same time, we know in Shastra that there's examples of a husband who was very, not so nice to his wife, Shavana Muni, grumpy old man, married this, young woman. But it's explained that by her chaste, shy, behavior, her service attitude towards her husband, she changed his heart. And Prabhupada brings that point up many, many, many times, that a woman changes the heart of her husband by maintaining her loving, serving attitude towards him. And it's not the other way around. And that's the thing that we have to understand. It's not like equal. It's not equal. It's not that. The Shastra says that if a woman speaks harshly and is unsubmissive, the Shastra tells the man to leave. Leave immediately. Shastra does not say that to a woman.
Hang on, Muchukunda. I think you guys have to leave at 12, right?
Yes.
So they got to leave in like.
Okay, you have 7 minutes.
6 minutes and 30 seconds.
Go ahead.
Okay. This topic has got me thinking about some advice I heard someone give to his wife when they just got. He gave some advice to a lady who'd just been recently married. He said, words to the effect of help him become, elevated in his spiritual life. He was a devotee, practicing 16 rounds and everything, but, the advice that this devotee gave her was build him up, help him, come get with the program. And just made me think about, you know, this conspiracy of feminism and how it was like basically, you know, be just as good as men. You know, if anything they can do, you can do it better. Rather than like the sati, you know, approach, which is like, I'll become blind. I, you know, I don't want to be better than my husband.
It's Gandhari.
Sorry, Gandhari. And like, it seems then that advice that was given is the same thing. It's a conspiracy. It weakens the family unit. If she's going to be helping him up, like you said, Sitapati, before, she's going to resent that. She doesn't want to be talking down to her man. So yeah, it does seem that there is a conspiracy within our movement, and it looks like that, but it also looks like other things as well. You know, like I pointed to in another podcast we did about the sannyasis alpha dogging on the men in the class. You know, putting down all the men in the class in front of their women. So I want to say that, and then just throw in there as well, like what's with women not wanting to be called Mataji? You know, don't call me Mataji. It's like it's a diss now, rather than an honorific, you know, respectful address. Yeah, that's my contribution.
So we're going to lose you guys. Thank you so much for being here and your contribution. I think there's more for us to churn here. I got a couple of hot takes that I want to drop on the table. So we got Vrinda and Govinda Dasi in the chat. Do either of you guys want to jump on with us? If you do, let me know in the comments, and I can drop you the link to come on. Because we're about to drop our male to female ratio down from 3 to 2 down to 2 to 1, which is unacceptable. So if Vrinda or Govinda want to come on to help us continue the conversation, that'd be great. Let us know. Here's what Govinda says. Essentially, women want love, stability, and security. Men want respect. The roles are definitely different, but they're being gutted by modern society. And Vrinda says that speaking from personal experience, even at work, to be taken seriously, women have to take on a very masculine persona, which harms their innate femininity. Here's Govinda Dasi's got you with the Mataji. I'll just drop this in, and then we'll take your point, Jivanmukta Prabhu. Yeah. They don't want to be called Mataji because that term has been used in very weaponized ways due to the attitude of the men in ISKCON. Is sick on. Freudian slip. Jivanmukta, over to you.
That may have been so in the past. I don't see it there anymore. But the pendulum now is, you know, has gone to a ridiculous degree where the women are demanding to be called Prabhu. You know, it's quite a ridiculous situation. But the other thing is that Muchukunda Prabhu brought up is that, yeah, you know, if we're talking about the culture within, you know, ISKCON, it's kind of a little perverse culture, because you're right. I mean, the sannyasis are taking kind of that alpha male position where the women are drooling all over them. You know, as I said before, you've got sannyasis with, you know, like hordes of beautiful young girls chanting around them and dancing around them. It's absurd. My position is, and has always been, that the wife, that in ISKCON, first of all, we should be discouraging women to get initiation and encouraging them to get married and take your husband as the guru. That should be the focus. They do not need to be initiated. The husband could give her a name even. The husband is the leader, the spiritual leader of the family. And unless that is encouraged by the leadership of ISKCON, I would say drop out, first of all. Drop out, or they change. Otherwise, the man becomes a mouse. He becomes humiliated. His wife won't see him as the leader because she'll see her, you know, powerful sannyasi, celibate guru who's not attached to her body, you know, as being superior. The wife should just see the husband.
Yeah, great point. I said in the beginning of my wife and I's marriage, or before we were even married, like I'm not fully aligned with everything that our community says and does. So are you married to me or the community? Because most women in our community are married to the community. So if the community, in other words, the leadership of the community says something, but the husband's not aligned, the husband's in Maya, in her view. And that's not conducive for a strong family unit. So I said like that, like you have to know that there's a distinction there, and you have to choose.
It's interesting because that's the communist principle, and that's that breaking up of relationships occurred during this whole COVID thing as well. It was a kind of the same, it's kind of that same mentality that, you know, and the same result is that people, you know, broke up because the wife or the husband, they took the government as the supreme authority, right?
And they allowed the government and the scientists.
Exactly. So ISKCON leadership is like the government. And so we look upon the government for guidance. We look upon the government for protection, but there is no guidance. There is no protection. The guidance is in Prabhupada's books. The devotees have to learn to be independent. Prabhupada didn't want these sycophants. He didn't want people dependent upon, you know, a system. He wanted independent men. And you become independent by reading Prabhupada's book so that you don't get fooled by these pseudo-intellectuals. If they make false arguments that sound seductive, but you feel in your gut there's something wrong here, then get into the books. Read the books. It's not, those books are not just for like the Brahminical, so-called Brahminical devotees. They're for everyone. And if you don't read them, you're setting yourself up to be misguided and misdirected.
Thank you so much. Sitapati, as the host, do you want to, like, is there anything you'd like us to say as the live
audience? You got to go now? Yeah, so like, why don't you just give us your reflections and what you got from this and what you're taking away from the conversation today? That'd be great.
Sure. Do you want to go first?
You go first. Give me some time.
Okay. Yeah, what I'm getting is that there is something called, I learned a few things. The Sattva Stri, which is the chaste woman. And, you know, I like what you said, Sitapati, before about it's not that they're below, it's, and Jivanmukta, you know, I agree that this doesn't, when Narad Muni said that, and then after them, there are the Sattva Stri, that doesn't mean they're like lower in, like somehow they're less valuable or something like that, but they have their own class, if you like, their own category or tattva, and prescribed duties that come along with that. And what I'm really present to as well is that what we're talking about when we discuss Varnashram and where women fit inside of that is it's an on the court conversation. It's not like a conceptual thing. It's like, what does their day look like? What are they doing? You know, and if they're the wife of a Brahmana, then it looks like empowering what he's up to. If they're a wife of a ksatriya or whatever the husband is doing, the wife is playing a support role and also taking care of the home and the children. And that's huge. And it's so valuable. I can vouch for like just how grateful men are for the contribution of their chaste wives. Like a great wife is a huge asset. It's massive. So yeah. And just lastly, that point about smartas, or you know, what Prabhupada said about a smarta brahmana and a pure Vaishnav are no different in terms of the following of rules, Vedic injunctions. It's just that the smarta brahmanas, they don't, what I'm taking is that they don't know the reason, the essence behind. So it becomes that niyamagraha, I believe the word is, attachment to the rules and regulations only for the sake of following them and not for the sake of spiritual advancement. Yeah.
Wonderful. Wonderful.
Yeah, I think just to give some final thoughts, when Jivanmukta Prabhu was saying, making that point that we should see through the eyes of Shastra, that was very powerful, and it just got me thinking. Yeah, there's so many things that people will be attracted to the Hare Krishna movement about: the prasadam, the chanting, the festivals, and then it's like once they go deeper into the books, there'll be things that they're pushed up against, like certain statements about women and their duties, and how they are meant to serve their husbands, and regardless, it's I feel like if someone's genuinely wanting to dive into Krishna consciousness, this is a big thing to, read the books, take them on as your life and soul. For women, when they read the books, there may be some internal, but ultimately we're all going through a process of surrender and acting according to our scripture. So that was a powerful point. And then I think, again, for me, I have 12 more weeks to go before this Vaishnava enters our family, and just this, the sense of what it means to be mother, and how I'm gonna approach, caring for a family in our households, keeping our family unit strong. I think, was a big, takeaway, to keep the family unit strong, which means the man has a role, the woman has a role. If they're complementary and harmonious, that's what's going to make it. So yeah.
Mic drop. Thank you, Prabhu and Mataji, and I mean that in the most honorific way, for championing this conversation. Such an important conversation. Thank you, Jivanmukta, for your dedication to this conversation in the world of ISKCON and the world. It's incredible. And thank you, Danna, for having the idea and to have this podcast, and Sitapati for empowering that. And that's quite cool too.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, it's really great. Okay, Hare Krishna.
Thanks for coming on, Hare Krishna. Enjoy your birthday. Hari
Thank
Bol.
you. Hare.
May be born life after life and get the service of the Vaishnavas in the Lord. Hare Krishna.
Giant, thank you. Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hari Bol.
They're such a nice couple.
Yeah, they're great. You got something that while you're talking about, we should be reading Prabhupada's books. Dana's sitting here reading Prabhupada's books. There's something here that you want to share?
Oh yeah, there is a lot about woman and man, and the husband and wife, the roles and everything. So there is something that that I really like, is where whether you are a man or woman, doesn't matter. The supreme husband is Krishna.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the other one, it's about how the woman is half of a man, also called as a hold on a second, I lost it. There's so many. Oh Jesus!
That one there. A husband is the supreme demigod for a woman. No, different one.
No, this is a different one. So there's a lot.
It's Kardama Muni, I think. It says that.
No, it's at the beginning. The manifest order.
Some great comments, great action happening in the comments section. Gora Prabhu's up in there, Govinda Dasi. We've got both of them on tomorrow, Gora and Govinda, in tomorrow's episode. And I just want to make a pitch here for the Hare Krishna Red Pill podcast, talking about all of the hot takes from Prabhupada's books. Gurus and groupies, expert at rape, polygamy, otherwise it's demoniac, just all of the hot takes.
So who's doing the expert at rape segment?
Oh, that's going to be the big one. That's going to be
That-
a bigger
that's
draw
very
than this one.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I think before that topic is discussed, I think whoever, obviously it's going to be guys discussing, because
No,
you
we
know,
need the women on there as well.
for males, I would really ask them to think 1,000 times before what you said, because what you said is going to impact how people, more males in this case, are going to take this message.
Mhm.
So it is very important, actually it's imperative, that maybe do a fasting for one day before you talk this topic, because it's very controversial. Obviously, as a female, we're going to be there for sure.
No,
But
I think
mostly guys like to talk about this.
I think women should be there.
We will be there. But the message that you guys bring in this discussion can destroy the society or can elevate. So it is a choice.
About that, I know that that's like a big concern, and they're like, we need to modify the books and everything. You know, people might take it the wrong way and do something. You know what? I mean, I think that on examination and having, and we'll discuss it, I think the inverse is actually the problem. It's the fact that people can't parse that statement and understand it, and that they're scared that people are gonna. It's that people are not acting on that. That's actually the problem.
They're not even looking at reality of what's going on in society. I mean, it's not, as far as I'm concerned, it's not controversial at all. I mean, again, it's controversial. Why? Because of the feminist mindset. That's why it's controversial. But actually, even the feminized society has proven it. It's not even a question of trying to find some obscure way of justifying what Prabhupada said. No, I mean, the feminists themselves have proven that. I don't know if you want to get into it now, but I don't want to steal your thunder,
No, definitely. Let's keep it for another topic and more specific to that.
Yeah. You wanted to do the better half. Did you find it?
Yeah, I did find it. So in Srimad Bhagavatam 4:26-17, it says, just as an intelligence is always within the heart, so a beloved chaste wife should always have her place on the chest of a good husband. This is proper relationship between husband and wife. A wife is therefore called Ardangani, or half of the body. One cannot remain with only one leg, one hand, or only one side of the body. He must have two sides. Similarly, according to nature's way, husband and wife should live together.
Yes. Prabhupada, as a sannyasi, Prabhupada was a grhasta, and his marriage didn't end very well. So he had some bad experience with his wife. But Prabhupada was always very encouraging because he understood the significance of having strong families. The man has to be inspired to take on his masculine responsibility. I remember when I was with the GHQ, the infamous GHQ, the women at that time, who are now in leadership positions, by the way, were ridiculing me for being so attached to my masculinity, like being so focused on my male ego. Meanwhile, that's one of the ways that Lord Krishna tried to compel Arjuna to take up his bow, damn it. You're a man. People are going to ridicule you. They're going to say you're a eunuch. Right? This is Lord Krishna, the supreme personality of Godhead, the complete whole, that which covers every aspect. He's in every atom. He said to Arjuna, you're a man. Get to it.
Chakra Tishta Parantapa. Give it up and get up. Or chastise with the enemy.
Meanwhile, we had these Vaishnavi women humiliating the men, saying, you guys are just attached to your male ego. Now,
the woman wants the man to be a gay.
There's a balance. There's a balance in being.
Feminized.
Yes, exactly. But then they're not
It's
happy
kind
with
of
them.
disgusting, actually. It's kind of disgusting that, this is a contradiction, and we have to be very clear about this. Females. As a female, we want a strong man, very masculine, protective, and all of that. And yet we want them to be like so feminized, like your little pet in the house.
A
You know
dancing-
what? Decide what you want. You want a man, then act like a woman. You want a woman, then act like a man. But don't complain later on.
Mhm.
It's just don't complain. And then what right as a woman do you have to minimize a man that is trying in this world that is conflicted and confused, as much as you are a female confused of what you should be doing, what you shouldn't be doing, whether you are okay in the body of a female or not. These males are bombarded in every corner, by every corner. So as a living entities, they're confused too. They're trying their best. Some are working really hard to be that man that a woman wants. So some females, that's the same, are working really hard to be a female. So we have to understand what path are you taking. Or you either act as a woman and you allow your husband to be a man. And it's the same for the other gender. You either want a woman and be a man and let her be feminine. But what is this like Krishna consciousness that man's like, oh, why are you attached to your ego? Hey, why are you, as a female, criticizing, why are you attached to your ego?
Yeah.
It's like, so we need to discuss this very clearly, and females and males, they need to know their position and how to respect a man, and a man how to respect a female.
I got to drop this in here. We can't do this show without a shout out. Gaura Prabhu has a question. He wants to know. He's asking on behalf of everyone out there. If the husband decided to take the clot shot, beef jab vaccine, is the wife obliged to potentially cause herself blood clots, myocarditis, paralysis, and premature death if he insists on her doing this? And thoughts and prayers with His Holiness Shiva Ramaswamy right now. Looks like it's not safe and effective, but what are your thoughts on this?
Mine? No, she's
Yeah.
not. She's not. He can't force her to take that.
But shouldn't she follow his lead, and not the,
That's different.
I don't think there is an anti-vax Swami out there. I haven't heard of them preaching to not take the vaccine, but imagine if someone did, Shouldn't she follow her husband
No,
and the science and the government and Bill Gates?
This is different. This is like injecting something into your veins. It's not something that she's not threatening him in any way by not taking it. That's the thing. There isn't any negative impact on him by her not complying.
Well, we know that now, but like the propaganda at the time was that, if she doesn't take it, you're going to die from the plague and she's going to kill your grandmother, right? That's what they were telling people at the time. So, then I can imagine some guy saying, I'm the husband, I'm the man here. This is what we're doing. You've got to do it.
Yeah. Well,
I think Govinda Dasi actually was, or was it Gaura? No, it was Govinda Dasi. She says, I know couples who have divorced over one taking the vax and the other refusing. It's a mashup. It's men. It's like, it's an intersectional, right? We're talking about men and women. Now we're onto the vaccine. How could we avoid it with Gaura in the comments?
That's one way. That's one reason to, I think, legitimately separate from your husband is if he's such a numbskull that he actually wants to take the vax, and not only him that he takes the vax, but he wants to force it upon you. Then maybe he's not the guy you should be with.
Totally, I agree. And what to speak when the guy doesn't do any proper research? It's just injecting whatever the Swami says. Guess what? Your Swami is about to die.
Yeah.
I do know a couple that were in that situation. The wife was like anti-vax, he was right into it, full believer. And I don't know whether she took it or not in the end, but she was like, okay, I'm not going to do it. Gaura also mentions couples fight over whether their children should be given the jabs and the marriage breaks. I know of people actually whose marriage was already broken and they had shared custody of the children, and then one of the parents took the children and got them vaccinated, you know, when they had the kids. Wow, man, people were in so much anxiety about it. Oof.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, Prabhu, I think I'm going to have to call it a night.
Yeah. So we got a teaser for future episodes, and we
Yes,
can
I would
see
love
that
to participate again if you want me to.
yeah,
Let's
100%.
do that.
Yeah. This is a topic where we can churn a whole lot more nectar.
I thank you so much for providing the medium to discuss these. You know what? My position is this. I hear so many people talking about Varnashram Dharma. Let's do this. Let's, Varnashram this, Varnashram that. And then you ask them the basic question. Okay, well, what's the division of labor between men and women? Like, how do women fall into Varnashram? And it's silence, or it's bogus, what they say. So it's like, how are you going to really implement something like this, or even theoretically, when you don't even understand the difference between male and female prescribed duties?
Mm.
It's ludicrous.
And it's very interesting in that section, chapter 11 of the 7th canto, where the 4 Varnas are described, and then immediately after that is a 5th category, which is the category of the chaste woman.
Yes.
They have a category of their own, and
Exactly.
it just rolls right through. It's just Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, Shudras, chaste women. There's like 5 categories.
It's interesting that they qualify it, not just women, chaste women, because unchaste women don't even fall within the category of Varnashram Dharma.
Mm.
They're not part of that. How many unchaste women do you see within the society of ISKCON? Unchaste in the way that they speak, the way they behave. I'm not saying that they're sexually unchaste, but even the way they speak, because the Shastra says that if you have a wife who speaks unchastely to you, you could leave her.
Well, I mean, let's just go all the way. I mean, if you hear a woman speaking in ISKCON, she must be unchaste, right? Get the burqas out. And I'm joking.
Yeah, I'm not saying that. I'm not saying
That's the quote that they're going to pull out, Jivanmukta from GHQ, and then Sitapati advocating for burqas. And that's why I brought my wife with me. I'm like, there's no way I'm getting accused of this.
Prabhupada brought up many times that his mother used to be go out in a palanquin.
Epic.
That's how it was during childhood.
Here's more money.
The point is that is cultural. That's not something, hiding your precious, chaste woman is something that is Vedic as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 100%. Anything that's valuable.
You keep it under wraps.
Oh, yeah. It's like in Spinal Tap when he's showing him the guitars and he's like, this one, and he's like, oh, don't touch it, and Marty DeBerg is like, and he's like, don't even look at it. It's like this one, it's still in its plastic wrapper and everything. It's like, yeah, if it's precious, it's worth keeping.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming on, Prabhu.
Right.
Let's just wrap up. Let's just have a couple of final words here. Danna, what would you like to say?
You start first.
Me?
Let's give it space to the guys.
So the claim that women have no Varna, it's a straw man. It's not the actual thing. And so when people roll it out, it's polemic, it's provocateur, it's great. Women have no Varna. But the weakness of it is the arguments against that. Of course, they do have qualities. Of course, they do come from a particular family, et cetera, et cetera. I think really what it comes down to is in Varnashram civilization, is there a pathway for independent individual self-actualization for women? And the answer to that is no. It falls outside of the system. Not to say that it doesn't happen. Lord Shiva's outside the system too. So, it's just not in the system. That's the bottom line of that. Please don't take that out.
Oh, sorry.
That's the do women have a Varna? So the question really is there an independent individual self-actualization path in the system? No, there's not. It doesn't mean that one doesn't exist, but it's simply not inside that system. So if we are committed to establishing Daivivanashram Dharma on this planet as the system of social organization for humans for the next 10,000 years, we are going to have to confront that. We're going to have to just accept that and deal with it.
Mm-hmm.
That's my conclusion from today's talk.
Prabhu?
Just to reiterate what you said, in my own way, that Srila Prabhupada has explained that as far as qualities based on Varna, which means color, which represents the mixing of the modes of nature. Prabhupada says that the modes of nature are represented in color. That you'll find in every species of life. Every species of life. It's in the men, and in the men, it's represented as the Varnas. You'll find it amongst the women. And generally the women are affected by the family that they're born in. That'll affect it. There's nature and nurture, so both are there. You'll find it, Prabhupada explains, you'll find it in the animals. You have the cows, you have the tigers, you have the monkeys, it's in the plants, it's in the trees, it's everywhere. So obviously women have different qualities. They're not just an amorphous mass of humanity. No, they have their different qualities. But irrespective of that, their primary duty is to serve their husband. And when they do get married, they take upon themselves the quality of their husband. So the husband is a Brahmin, they take that quality on. The husband's a Kshatriya, they serve him in that capacity. And then she becomes Kshatriyani because now she's the wife of the Kshatriya. But the women have a very, very specific occupational duties. They have very specific occupational duties that center around service to the husband and family. And that is what is being presented in ISKCON right now. That is what is being denied and ridiculed by some of these people in ISKCON right now. And that's the danger. Because they're bringing in within the Vedic culture this poisonous modern Kali Yuga mentality. Anyway, thank you so much.
Thank you, Prabhu. Danna?
What do I say as a female? It's great to be a female. And I will suggest any females that are coming into Krishna consciousness and females that are already in Krishna consciousness, make sure that you choose a male that is responsible and his qualities are actually great, that is going to bring success, auspiciousness in your relationship. And as a female, make sure you know what are your roles, because it's really important that you know what are your roles, so your husband too. As otherwise, we're going to have these broken relationships here and there within the Krishna conscious community. It doesn't feel the purpose of Srila Prabhupada, what he really wants us to do. Yeah, that's all what I want to say.
Fantastic. So we should do an episode on choosing a mate. We should do one and then get the
That's a
women
hot topic.
and the men on here. That'll be a great one. Let's give the last word to. There's two guys. Let's give the last word to Govinda Dasi. She says, "Thank you, Jivanmukta Prabhu. You're a good guy, but most women don't get so lucky to have a good guy. Sorry to disappoint your idealism. So just to that point, we're not just here to talk about it. Jivanmukta and I are out to create good guys for the women to marry. Sorry to disappoint your idealism. It's okay. We're realistic about it. We're going to do something about it. But it is a fact that Canadians are less degraded and much more sattvic than Americans. There you go.
Ouch.
Shout out to the Canadians, I guess.
Well, thank
Thanks
you.
so much, Prabhu.
Muchukunda Dasa. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hari Krishna.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
See you in the
Thanks
next
again.
episode.
Have a great day. See you again soon.
Have a great night.
Hare
Param Vijayate Shri Krishna Sankirtanam.
Jai
Total
Srila
glory to Hare
Prabhupada.
Krishna.
All glories to
Jai
Srila
Srila
Prabhupada.
Prabhupada. Haribol.